What's up, you Tampa Morgians? This is Ed, and we will see you after this song on the Tampa Morgue.
What's up? This is Tony, and you're listening to the Tampa Morgue, episode number 52. And as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Ed Webb. What's up, dude?
Mr. Anderson, what's going on, my brother?
Doing good, man. We had some technical little difficulties as usual, and I was actually, Ed, when you were rebooting your stuff, before I rebooted my stuff prior to Ed doing that, the show, I was watching, I was, scrolling through some stuff, and I was watching a guy get like a barbed wire mustache tattoo.
Wow.
That's
talk about a waste of fucking time.
Man, right? We're heavily tattooed people, both of us, I would say, but I don't know, a barbed wire mustache tattoo.
Yeah, I think that one eludes me a little bit. I'm not interested in any of that.
What would your wife say if you came home with a barbed wire mustache tattoo?
Yeah, I don't even want to entertain that conversation.
She would.
She'd probably be like, "Wow, you really got a tattoo?" Without telling me. They wouldn't even. Probably, yeah. Well, it would be like grow a mustache and never, ever, ever shave.
Yeah, I think that sometimes when people get those head tattoos, like if like, back in your youth, get something you really regret one day, I guess you can grow out your hair and hope you don't go bald. But, I was just watching that video while you're booting on back on, and I was just like, man, I just don't know. Like,
well, I see these videos on YouTube where it's somebody talking about like the idiocracy of America today. And it was this chick, and he's like, yeah, this girl wonders why she can't get a fucking job. And they pan to her, and she's sitting in her car doing a TikTok or whatever, and her face is completely tattooed, and she's got like 62 piercings all throughout her face. And she's like, I went in for an interview, and they were like, oh, we found somebody that, had a little more experience. Why can't you just tell me the truth? What, that you look like a fucking moron, and that we don't want... It was for like a department store, like being on the floor in a department store to help customers. But listen, you said it. We're both tattooed. It's one thing to have arm tattoos. I've been sleeved for close to 30 years now, and I did it when it wasn't cool. I had piercings. My ears were stretched to a 0, and I had 3 or 4 in one
0
ear.
Prince Albert too, didn't you, at one time?
Yeah, I did. I actually a 000 right now. It's just my dick hangs to the floor. But yeah, I had my septum pierced, my labret. I had, even my tongue pierced, I think, at one point. But it wasn't cool. You know what I mean? We didn't do it because it was like to do.
Well, and the thing is, like you said, we're not like, if you get tattoos, that's cool. But I mean, I don't know if you get your
stupid words written across your eyebrow.
Yeah, or a barbed wire. A barbed wire mustache tattoo. You're probably not going to get some jobs in some places, and I mean, more power to you. But I think you have to be. I always think like when you really tattoo your face and stuff, you probably have to be like a tattoo artist or just rich or a professional musician.
or you have your own company and whatever it is you do, you're an artist. You know what I mean? Again, it's nothing against it.
Yeah,
but
to each their own. But
you have to understand that when multi-billion-dollar companies are hiring employees and they're supposed to be the face of the employee, they have the right to say no. Like, you look like a moron. I'm sorry. I mean, if it offends you, I don't have anything against it personally, but don't take offense when you did that to yours. Like the guy who cut his tongue like a snake, and then he later on we saw that guy, he looked all reptiled out, he got his face all
oh yeah, I forget his name actually. I know exactly.
And he couldn't get a fucking job anywhere later on, and he was upset. And it's like, dude, what did you think was going to happen when you come out looking like a fucking snake? I mean,
when I was booking shows at Venom, I forget what band it was with, but there was someone, I don't think they were in the band, but they might have been doing merch for them or something. But the guy actually had a dick tattooed on his head.
That'll work for you.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty extreme. You pretty much have already made your choices.
The term dickhead fucking fit that guy.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, my wife, I could, there's a certain limit, I think. But yeah, so welcome everybody who's listening to us. It is the Tampa Morgue, and we are on episode number 52. And we signed on today to do a small little show. We figured, we've been off for I think about 9 days or so. It's funny, Ed. We had Bloody F Mess on the last episode, 51. Whoever
that was a fun one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was It was the first time I got some angry feedback from some people who listened to it. Mostly everyone. I mean, a shitload of downloads on it. I mean, but there was some people who it was definitely an extreme episode, kind of in a way, for people who haven't listened to it yet. It's the last episode we did, episode number 51 on there. Bloody F Mess. Bloody has. He was very honest with us. He told us stuff that he never has spoken about before. He said on interviews about spending time in the I guess the asylum or whatever, what you want to call it. I mean, the mental hospital. But and I think the thing that got people was probably like the Gacy story a little bit, because some of those tales, because it was. What did you think of those Gacy stories? They're pretty out there.
Well, when he because nobody knows behind the scenes shit, but when you told me that he wrote you afterwards, or messaged you or called you. I can't remember what you said, but
I think
he's
both.
like, dude, I've never told anybody some of these stories. He goes, you got shit out of me. I've never, ever told. And to me, that was cool. But yeah, the Gacy stories, I mean, you know, it's...
Would you go hang out with Gacy in the South? That I would not. Not in
no.
Totally
But
down
the
with
point
Bloody.
is
I've been
like,
friends with him, but
there
I would
are
not
people
personally,
out there that were really into serial killers. Like, I know chicks who were ready to go blow Bundy in a fucking jail cell. You know what I mean? Like, you would read about it back in the day. How girls were infatuated with this guy because he looked so...
Oh, yeah, he had
handsome.
like a waiting list of women or something. You know,
it was
for
crazy,
Richard
dude.
Ramirez, too, was the same way.
That dude looked psycho. That guy didn't look... But Ted Bundy looked... You know, that's how he was able to pick up all his women, because he looked handsome. People loved him.
Well, with the Gacy thing...
Look who played him in the movies.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, totally.
I think Zac Efron played him, right? In one movie?
I mean, that was his, like you said, that was his charm. That's how he was able to get those girls to go in the car with him and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, the Gacy thing, it's like, you know, Bloody's first, what he was telling us was his first idea was to go attack him, and then basically it didn't happen like that. He became friends with him. And then obviously the story about his buddy and Gacy was pretty fucking insane. Anybody who hasn't heard it. And I think that might have pissed off a few people. The G.G. Allen stories, man, you know, hey, I mean, in a lot of ways, you kind of saw a little bit of a different side of G.G. for a moment.
Right. Not the one that everybody, you know, the stereotypical stories about G.G. that, you know, he was throwing shit or doing whatever he did. It was a different side of him, which, you know, and we know a couple people, obviously. We know Brandon and people
who deals with that side, right?
With that side, and he said, "Dude, this Gigi wasn't. You know, he didn't.
He was definitely insane, but he had, you know,
he wasn't on 24/7. You know, he had his moments, but yeah. And again, people who get offended by whoever we have on, you know, whether it's like the satanic dude or it's this dude or that dude or Bloody F mess. Listen, man, we're doing interviews with people. You know what I mean?
We don't tell them what to say. It's open mic.
Yeah, we don't. We tell people that, like, you know, being that we don't do video, we tell people, man, if there's something we talk about, give us the cutoff sign and we'll bail out. So far, ain't nobody, you know, unless it's a concert or something we can't talk about, you know what I mean, or a tour or something that's coming up where people will say, yeah, we can't announce that yet.
But we have had people come back and say, I can't believe I fucking said that, man. Maybe you can remove that, you know.
No, we've had something. Yeah, I've had to remove a couple things after the fact a couple times. But, yeah, I mean, you know, it's... Do you guys want watered down bullshit or do you want real?
There's plenty of it out there.
Let me tell you something, man. Bloody F Mess was as real as it gets.
It's a lot
That's one of the realest interviews I've heard as far as, you know, people who've done some crazy shit, which is verified. You know what I mean? I mean, what he's saying isn't like some, oh, that didn't happen. It did. And,
he's legit, man, and he was. I appreciate him coming on here and being open with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, he told me before he came on, he's like, "Listen, man, ask me whatever you want." And I even before we signed on that day when we first met up with Bloody, you know, because it was a fucking crazy setup trying to get everything going for that show. But I even asked him again. I was like, "Hey, dude, are you sure I can ask you whatever?" And he's like, "Yeah." So we did, man, and it was definitely. Everybody hasn't heard it, whether you know, it was obviously Bloody was a punk rock musician, still is. He's also a radio host and stuff like that now. But if anybody hasn't checked it out, it's definitely worth a listen, even if you don't know who he is or listen to his music. Just the stories themselves are pretty insane. You know, and that was the first time we got a lot of great feedback, but there was a couple people who didn't find some of the stories too tasteful. But that's how it goes.
They were a little offended.
A little offended. Which I'm
surprised. Good, we did our job. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have a great day.
So everybody has checked it out. It's there. Like all our other back issues. You know, we had Chris Reifert on recently. It's a bunch of interviews that we've done. You can go back and check. We've actually, you know, I think there's 50 something on there, so plenty of hours to listen to. We actually opened up the show with a Jersey band from Belford, New Jersey called Damonacy. You remember them, Ed?
Yep.
Yeah, they're from Belford. The track we opened up with was Infernal Desolation from the From Within 91 demo. You know, and that band, man, one of the guys, so I'm trying to think. I think they only did, a demo, 2 demos and a full length, and that was about it for that band. But That came out in 91, and we're going to talk about some 91 releases today. Like I said, we're just kind of here, just going to shoot the shit for a while before, it was just kind of a spur of the moment show. Figured, hey, we'll stop in. There's a couple things I'll get a couple shows I want to mention. And Ed, also, I know, we're a couple years in difference in age, but man, I saw Shelley Duvall died yesterday.
Yeah. Yep. It's weird because people always think of her as just The Shining, but I was kidding around with my wife. I said olive oil, and she was like, "Oh wow, I forgot about that." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Fairy Tale Theater.
Movie, Robin Williams, that was a great, kind of adaptation of Popeye. I thought it was great. She was great in that. Of course, she was great in fucking The Shining. I mean, that goes without saying. But she's done a lot of movies, and
she was in Roxanne, dude. She was,
yeah.
And you remember Fairy Tale Theater, right? From like it was like 80. I don't know, it was early 80s. I forget exactly what years that was. She was in Thieves Like Us. The last film she did was in 2023, I was reading, called The Forest Hills. But she died at 75, and I remember as a kid her being on, I remember, I forget what day it was on, but I always remember seeing Fairy Tale Theater as a kid. Brewster McCloud. But Shelley Duvall. And I know she was 75 when she passed away. I think it was from complications from diabetes and stuff. But, when I was a kid, man, you saw Shelley Duvall. That was, she also did, what was it? Shelley Duvall's Nightmares. She did in 89, which was like an anthology TV series. There wasn't too many episodes of that, but also another person who passed away, man, you remember the show Alf?
Yes.
The kid from Alf. Well, he's not a kid anymore. He's 46 when he passed away.
Right. Yeah, I saw that.
Benji Gregory, and they found him in a car at a Chase Bank in Arizona. So I don't know what happened there, but they found him dead in there. But Alf is when you're a kid and you see Alf, you kind of don't realize how bad of a show it is. No offense to, no disrespect to the deceased, but if you go back and watch Alf now, man, that show was pretty rough. And that was
I mean, I'll tell you what, not just Alf, like, so my wife got on a, God, I want to kill her sometimes. She got on a, Jaws kick, because I guess, we're getting to Shark Week. So we watched the first two, the first one, and then she started watching the second one, and I jumped in and finished it with her because I forgot. I was like, oh man, I forgot how this one ended. I knew it was the kids on the boat, on their little glider boats and their boats out there, and they got caught up by the reef and stuff and the helicopter. I was like, oh shit, I forgot all about that, because then shit started coming back. Well, then I left the room and I come back in and she started Jaws 3, which was in 3D. And I remember seeing that in the theater with Dennis Quaid.
Is that the one with the underwater? What's the one with the underwater? Remember they have like they built some kind of place underwater?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. It was at SeaWorld. And
okay.
Dennis Quaid is the younger kid, Michael. He's grown up now, and he runs the main stuff for SeaWorld. And
is that the one where they get rid of Jaws by, doesn't he hold like a grenade or some kind of like explosive?
No,
and then,
that was the second one.
That was
where
the second
he reaches
one.
in the mouth with the hook. Yeah, this is the one where it was, dude. They almost kept in the 3D effects without the 3D, and there's a part where they're in the underwater thing looking out at the water, and Jaws is coming up, and dude, it looks so terrible. Then I looked at my wife and I said, I'm sorry. She's like, yeah, but when we were younger, I'm like, no way. I said, this is the 3D version without the glasses. You know what I mean? I mean, it was so terrible.
Jaws 1's fucking great, though. That was a great movie.
Well, the first two are great, because the second one was when he held up the wire and he he bit the wire and fucking fried to death.
That's right.
But,
you remember when you remember Doug Sylvia? We used to play. He played drums with.
Yeah, he does this pool party every year.
Yeah, he does the pool party and shows Jaws on the big screen.
Yep, on the big projector. Yeah. So, which is going to probably happen at my house, because I literally, as you know, I've used the projector as my main TV for.
You've been watching porn on that for years.
For years, dude. Big dicks. But it finally, we just redid our whole living room and paint and everything, and I tried to redo it, and it didn't work. For some reason, I bought this badass sound bar, and it it's time. I had to buy a fucking 85-inch TV.
I forgot that you had a projector.
For me.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
now I was like going to sell it, and I'm like, wait a minute, I could buy one of those 300 fucking inch blow up screens and do summer shit outside, you know, with the projector, which I'm probably going to do because I literally am building a gazebo with a hot tub and all that cool shit. So I have a pool that I'm putting up. So yeah, I don't have Doug Sylvia money, but you know.
Yeah, he's got a pretty cool setup. Every year, you're right. Every year the Jaws party goes on at his house, I think. So
yeah, he's got that projector outside, which works. I mean, that's how you do it, man. But yeah, so now I'm going to be able to do some cool shit like that. But Jaws, yeah, it was funny because
I remember when I was a kid, man. That shit. When I saw that I don't know, something about that movie. I think that was the first time I ever saw a kid get killed in a movie when I was little.
Right away, too.
Yeah,
it was like right away. Like to me, I remember my parents. I was 4. And my parents took me to the drive-in theater because that's what we used to do up north. You went to the drive-in. And
we've talked about that before.
I remember seeing it, and I remember just sitting in the back seat and not do. My parents just watched the movie. I wouldn't. After seeing Jaws the first time, I was done. I was toast. I remember. It's weird. It took seeing the movie to reflect on that. But yeah, those were great times, man. And those movies, you know, some of them stand the test of time, like the original Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, stuff like that. Even though the graphics today suck, some of them hold the test of time, like the original Halloween, even some of the old, even Star Wars, you know what I mean? Because it's just great. But
do you think, Ed, that people still go to, you remember how, obviously I kind of know this answer already before I ask you, but you remember how when we were kids, like you went to see the movie. When it came out, everybody went to go see the movie.
Right.
I would be really interested to see now, like, I mean, when a movie comes out, do they stay in the theater for months anymore? I mean, does that happen anymore? Is it like
certain movies? But I can tell you here, I haven't been to a movie aside from last week in forever. The new Quiet Place movie came out, and I liked the first 2 were pretty good. I like John Krasinski from The Office. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know the Quiet Place movie.
Yeah, I have. I do know that.
So this was supposedly day 1 where it started. So it was with completely different people. And my wife and her friend wanted to go. And, you know, when the wife goes, you go. But it wasn't bad. But we went into a theater literally day 1. We have a theater here. It used to be called Studio Movie. It's called Look. And they serve you food and stuff, you know, they have alcohol. And
they have like the kickback seats and stuff, like you.
No, the seats suck, but they actually you order off of your phone and they bring it to you, and you just pay through your phone. But yeah, we went to see the movie, and there was 5 people in the whole theater.
That's what I was wondering, man, because when we were kids, there was lines outside the building.
No, it was 6:00 at night, but you would think on a Saturday at 6, people would be there, and no, it was 5 people in this whole theater. And I wonder, I'm like, how does this place stay open if they're not packing out the theaters? Now, again, I haven't been to a movie in a long time where it was one of those where you go in and there's no seats and you can't buy a ticket. These theaters really are only holding 40 to 50 people tops. So, you know, selling it out wouldn't be that hard. But yeah, 5 people. 6 people maybe in that theater. Well, more than that, obviously, because there were 6 of us. But I'm talking about, besides us, there was only 6 other people in the theater. So, yeah, to run a movie with the electric and all that stuff for 12 people, how can that be, you know, how does that worth it?
It's crazy. Everything's changed so much, you know what I mean? Yeah,
well, because, you know why? Because you've got Netflix. They have it to where that same movie, if you want, Amazon Prime or some of these new streaming sites, you can just pay $12.99 and sit at your home and watch it. So if you got a killer theater, right. If you got a killer theater like I'm about to have with Dolby, like Dolby Atmos, you can literally get the theater experience in your own home, and you're going to pay more than $12.99 to take a family of 5 to the theater, plus drinks, plus food, popcorn. I know my daughter and my wife they split a meal and got a popcorn or something, and it wound up being like $25.
Gotta start sneaking stuff in. That's why
we did. She did. She snuck cans of Coke in or like ginger ale for me because I won't I won't buy none of that crap.
And with the prices you got, I don't blame people for sneaking it in. I mean, they're just
No.
basically screwing. You're paying
I'm a
$6
scumbag.
for a popcorn or some shit like that.
We used to go to the Dollar Tree and get the dollar fucking box of candy, and
A lot of people do that because they usually have those. I know in Florida, at least, it seemed to notice that there's usually a dollar store or a Dollar Tree near most of the theaters there now. So,
now if you want, you can bring in a purse. Identify as whatever you want. Bring in your purse.
Whatever you like.
A fucking Outback meal if you want. I guess.
As long as you're not bringing something to shoot everybody. That's the
No. We'll keep that at home.
That's what you don't want to do.
Stay home, Joe.
Yeah, yes. But yeah, that's So I was kind of wondering about that, but I kind of figured. And let me see. We're actually going to have to play eventually here in a few minutes. We're going to play an ad. We talked about it a few episodes ago. We're going to be giving tickets away to what is it? Slash at the obviously Slash from Guns N' Roses and Slash
it's at the
Snake
Ruth Eckerd
Pit.
Hall, but it's the outdoor portion, which it's a pretty cool. I scoped it out. It looks like a pretty cool venue. I'll be there. I got tickets.
So we're going to run the ad for the. We made.
But just so everybody's aware, it's not Slash with Miles Kennedy. It's like a blues. He put out a blues record with some really killer people, like the guy from ZZ Top, like some legends. And I listened to it a little bit. I was a little disappointed when I heard it wasn't the Miles Kennedy Slash. I told you that. I was like, what the fuck? Then I started listening to the record a little bit. It's amazing how fucking great this guy really is on guitar. I mean, Guns N' Roses is one thing
now and stuff. I mean, I think he's quit drink. I think he quit everything, right? For like maybe 18 years or some shit. Now they're saying.
He's definitely one of the best all around guitar players I've probably heard, because to play metal, to play rock, to play the blues. I've heard him play. I mean, it was. I was kind of ashamed of myself for saying, man, come on, man, what are we doing here? And then I listened to it and I was like, it kind of captivated me a little bit. Like, if you can actually get you in a little calm mood, and it's good. So I'm like, okay, you know what? My wife's like, let's go. What can it hurt to go watch the show? I'm like, yeah, you know what? Boom, done. We're going.
Yeah, we made a deal with Ruth Eckerd Hall to give away tickets. So, we don't choose the concerts. We just kind of, it's free tickets to somebody who wants them. We're going to do something on I think there's something for the Instagram we're going to put on there this week, this weekend.
And we'll announce it too, so that you could go to Instagram and enter.
Yeah, it's going to be up this weekend, I think.
Just so you know, we're talking about Clearwater. So if you live in Wyoming, you're probably not going to want to try to, unless you feel like flying out to see Slash. It may not be cost effective, but hey, welcome to Florida. Come
Well, we're going to run an ad for that. There's some commercial they gave us to play, so we're going to play that here in a few minutes. That's what I mentioned, a few shows that's going on in our area in Florida. Let me see here. Saturday, July 13th. Did you ever have you been to Deviant Libations? I think it's called, the venue. I didn't know about this venue. It's on. I haven't been to Florida in a couple of years. I'll be back there in November, but it's 3800 North Nebraska Ave. And this show is Fathom from Ohio, Sustenance from Georgia, Peacemaker, which is a Florida band, I believe, Grasping at the Shadow, and then Spiritual Chaos. And that's a venue called Deviant Libation, I believe but that's actually a brewery too. Because I also saw on July 18th, they're actually going to be doing a creature feature, double feature there. If I said that correctly, Attack of the Giant Leeches, they're going to be playing from like 59 and the Little Shop of Horrors. So it's like a brewery, I guess. I've never been there before, but that's
look into that, because I've never heard of it.
Yeah, so they have that show's taking place there. Like I said, Fathom, and let me see here. That is the address, 3800 North Nebraska Ave, and that's the same place. July 18th, like I said, they'll be doing the Creature double feature there with those two movies. They'll be playing. Well, I think the people will be tasting beer and stuff. And Saturday, July 24th, or let me see here. Did I always do this? So I write down the show, and I forget to write down the date of the show. So I seem to be doing this a lot. So I'll announce this one at the end of the show once I figure out what the exact date is of it. I cannot believe I did that, so I do apologize. But yeah, so Ed, let's run that ad. We'll run the ad for the giveaway, the tickets that we're going to give away this next couple weeks on the Instagram page. So we'll run that for Ruth Eckerd Hall, And then what we'll do is we'll come back and just talk about some 1991 releases and just, like I said, it's going to be kind of a short show tonight. Me and Ed have a bunch of stuff going on. We kind of, we didn't want to skip this week, so we figured we would show up. And when we come back from this, from this ad for Ruth Eckerd Hall, like I said, we'll be giving away these tickets on the Instagram page. Whoever's interested in the Florida area, hit us up. Or they're actually the rules, I guess, and all that. Ed read all the rules today, so they'll all be up there, and we'll have it all functional, ready to go. But we're going to play this ad really fast, and we'll be back on the Tampa Morgue right after this commercial.
Slash presents Serpent Festival, a celebration of the blues. Saturday, August 10th at Baycare Sound. Starring Slash, Larkin Poe, ZZ Ward, and Robert Randolph. Don't miss an all-star night of blues for one night only. Serpent Festival. Saturday, August 10th at Baycare Sound. Tickets on sale now at BaycareSound.com. Serpent Festival, a Ruth Eckerd Hall experience.
There you go. That was a commercial for the Slash tickets that we'll be giving away for Ruth Eckerd Hall. So Ed, 1991. What the hell were you doing in 91?
What was I doing in 91? I was alive. I was 20 years old. So there's that.
20 years old.
That honestly, when you said we were going to talk about 91 and I delved into it just a tad, I realized that's probably the biggest death metal purchase time of my life, because I went through and looked, and the bands that came out that year, some of them were brand new bands, some of them had been around, some of them were just putting out records, some of them were bands that were other bands reforming into a new band. It was probably one of my favorite years for death metal as a whole, as being, pretty much 4 or 5 real years from death metal starting, like, to become big, from 87, 88, really. So yeah, that was a good year, man. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's kind of like you look at all the stuff that came out, and we had Chris on episode 49, Chris Reifert, obviously from Autopsy, and Mental Funeral. I mean, that's Peaceville Records. I thought it was kind of interesting when we were talking to Chris about how they didn't like the cover when they all got it. I think they got it in Europe when they were on tour. They got to see it because back then it was different. You didn't always get to see your covers and all that stuff. But I thought that was really interesting that, like, because I know Kev Walker did the art for that. But he said that on our show, he was talking about how
he didn't like the artwork at all, right?
But it grows on you. Now you see it, and I think he
absolutely
said the same thing. It's pretty much what it is now, So yeah, that album definitely they did that at I think that was Different Fur in San Francisco. They did that studio wise. If you remember, I mean, Devo recorded there, Mr. Bungle, Primus, The Residents. There was a lot of people that recorded that studio. And the Mental Funeral, to me, I love the record. I don't mind the cover, but for me and you, we know no different. Like, we saw that cover, that's just what it was. We didn't,
Absolutely. You don't know the behind the scenes until you talk to these people.
Yeah, and a band you played with, what? That was Massacre. You guys, you weren't with them at that time, but that was obviously From Beyond.
Yep, From Beyond came out that year. Yep.
And that was Lee, Roz, Butler, and Bill Andrews, obviously.
Yep.
Do you remember when you first heard that record?
Right when it came out.
Picked it up right away?
Probably the first, Aces Records. Probably the first weekend it came out. That was one of the things I picked up.
And that was Earache. They did that More Sound. And
if I remember, it came out, it was a few weeks after my birthday, because my birthday's in June, and I think that came out, I want to say it was the first week of July. Shit, I can look real quick.
Obviously, Repka did the art for that, which, you can always tell Repka covers when you see them.
Yeah, July 1st, because there were three albums that came out, I remember it in that time frame, between May to July, because I was, we were going to Aces every weekend. And I remember I picked up 3 records when I got the Massacre and was blown away, man, because I was like, holy shit, what's going on here?
Did you have a favorite tune to sing off that record when you were doing your time with Massacre?
Off of From Beyond.
Yeah.
Probably, the first tune I actually learned, and I learned it. I mean, I knew the words before even trying out for them, because I used to, again, I've said this 1,000 times, the whole rock star Mark Wahlberg, I had the posters of these guys on my wall. I mean, it's weird when I heard him say that, because, obviously that was about Ripper Owen. And I used to come home and play that record front to back on guitar. So for me, it was,
I remember you telling me that too. That was,
I used to, like, there were records like that, like all the Death records leading up to Human, I would play on guitar, Massacre, any band that was tuned to E flat or D, I would play, because that's what my guitar was tuned to. So yeah, Dawn of Eternity was probably the one song, because it's the first one on the record, and it just, it had such with the intro riff, dun, 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 dun. That's, to me, that was always the, when you start a show, you open with something that has a little bit of a breather, so you can come in, and that's the tune. And even over the years, I remember when we played Vakken, I've told the story how, when we played a brand new stage that had just been built that year. It was a mud fest, so getting between the stages was like a fucking nightmare, because the mud was like, you had to be there. It was crazy. But Henry Rollins did his spoken word. Then some band I've never heard on. There were 2 stages in this big tent that held about 10, 12,000 people, and there was nobody there. Like for Henry Rollins, there might have been 1,000 people.
Oh wow!
So
really?
You're seeing like air, like nothing but space in this giant tent, and I'm watching the other band play, and there's really nobody there. So we were backstage, and when we started the show, we did Dawn of Eternity, and the band would play, and then I would come out on my cue. I knew the cue to come out, which is like about a minute and a half in, because it's a long intro. And I remember walking out, the fucking place was wall to wall packed, and I about shit my pants, because I was not expecting that. And I remember just like almost forgetting the words, but that song it's a song that the fucking crowd just lost it. And yeah, it's probably the song that to me probably would be the one. If I had to pick one, I mean, they're all fucking great, but if I had to pick one, that would be it. Don't ask me about the second record, because the one we did, because I can't pick that one. There's too many good songs on the record.
91 too. You got Ripping Corpse. We've talked about them plenty of times on the show. We talked about Dreaming with the Dead. I think we did an episode on like debut albums or whatever, and because they had, you're World Jersey guys, obviously Red Bank. They had a couple demos out. They had the Death Warmed Over demo, and then Splattered Remains. I think they had 3 demos out. And then when Dreaming with the Dead came out, everybody knew about it in high school where I was from. It was a thing. Crazy. Yeah,
nobody expected what they heard, because it was so unique and different. I mean, Sean Kelly, Eric Rattan, it was just
Dave Bizzigatti, who I on a different episode, he was involved with. I was involved with Dave a little bit, playing for a very short period of time. Which to me, when it first went down, I was like, wow, man, Dave Bizzigatti from a band I grew up listening to, Ripping Corpse. I was pretty damn excited about it, and obviously Eric Rattan. I mean, obviously being from Tampa, we all know Eric and stuff, and Eric's a great guy, just a beast. I mean,
funny that him and my sister were born in the same fucking hospital. I mean, that's a small world. You know what I mean?
Is your birthday the same day as Rattan's? For some reason, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's funny too.
Yeah,
yeah. No, the record's great. Everything that dude touches is fucking great. Eric Rattan fucking rules.
Remember the first time I heard Sweetness? I was just like, I was hooked. I'm just hooked.
Yep. That riff is just fucking one of the craziest riffs, and you can hear, Eric and his music, from Ripping Corpse to Hate Eternal to what he writes. I mean, you can hear it. Eric. Plus he's a fucking
just amazing player, man.
He's just a mastermind at everything he does. Even as a producer, he's great.
Yeah, I mean, I have a really cool Eric story that, Christian was recording over at his studio, Mana, which was, I think I live probably 10 minutes away from it. And I went to a barbecue, and it was just me, Eric, and the three brothers from Christian hanging out. Man, it was definitely cool, man. The three brothers are awesome. Those guys are just some of the nicest people. Big Christian fan. I don't understand how every show is not packed in the States, because it's weird. You go to some of the shows in Florida, and you just think that they're just such a killer band, man. You always know what you're going to get from them.
Yeah, he's not a fan of having people in the studio that aren't, really there to record, because he's a serious guy.
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, I was totally I was just wow, man, I was just this is crazy. I was just chilling there, and I know Eric, and I knew the guys from Christian, so they're the ones that invited me up there, and like I said, man, it was something I'll never forget. I mean, and the studio is just killer, and the fact that the studio is kind of hidden too, right? It's kind of it's
behind the Wawa down the street. Yeah,
it's behind the Wawa down the street.
I went up there because Steve Tucker, needed a bass for his project he was doing, and I brought him a bass, and I went up there, and Eric was there, and he's like, every time I see Eric, he's the kindest, nicest dude. Oh fuck, dude, I ain't seen you in forever, man. I mean, he's not one of those guys that pretends to be bigger than life. He's like a real, genuine guy.
He loves his Eagles too, man.
Oh my God.
He loves his Eagles.
Sorry, brother. Can't. Sorry, dude.
Sorry. You got Death put out Human in 91. Die. Were you a fan of so when you first heard that record, were you a fan of Human when you first heard it?
That's a hard question to answer, because I've always dug Death, and I think I like the technicality of it. I think what sold me on the record was DiGiorgio. The playing he did on that record was phenomenal. And if you don't know the history or the real story, his bass was actually Jason Newsted on that record. I don't know if you knew that, but there's parts on that record he did, and it kind of would have outshined some of the stuff Chuck was doing, so he pulled it. So I know that hear some of it.
Cosmic C, Carino plays on. That's the only song that DiGiorgio doesn't play on that record. It's Cosmic C. Scott Carino played on that one.
But I will tell you this. I heard some of the record some of the stuff DiGiorgio did, and it was phenomenal, man. It's kind of like when you hear "Injustice for All" with Newsted, and you go, "Why wouldn't you have that on the record? Why wouldn't you do that?" So yeah, it was a great record. I think it was foreshadowed, because there was other records that came out for me that I listened to 100 times more. One of them, another Florida band, that honestly, I wore out the tape, but, and our buddy Ronnie's in it, Malevolent Creation, the 10 Commandments.
That was their debut.
Fucking Brett Hoffman. Listen, I heard a lot of singers over the years. That guy is probably one of the most unique guys, honestly, his voice was so unique, like a Tardy unique. There's guys that can imitate, but to duplicate him, is kind of real difficult. But that record was kind of like Imperial Doom. You know what I mean? It's the guys in the band were a staple of that band at that time, and it crushed, man. I love that record. I listened to it a lot. The first, when Hoffman starts with that, "As they lay this wretched waste of a man to his final rotting place," and and he's just talking over that part, it gives me goosebumps right now. I mean, I'm just like, it was so well done for that time period. I mean, think about that, 1991.
That's crazy. RC Records, you think about it, Seagrave did the artwork. I mean, the lineup.
It's just a great record, and you look at the bands that really were around at that time. I mean, you're talking in Florida, you had Massacre, Death, Monstrosity.
Because you guys did that. Well, not you guys, but the band Monstrosity did Burden of Evil too in 91.
Right.
We talked about Imperial Doom on the last episode, the 92 episode we did.
And then another band from Florida, that put out a great record after the death of their bass player was Atheist. They put out in Questionable Presence.
Yes.
And talk about a phenomenal record. Just technical craziness. Kelly Schaefer.
Tony Joy. I mean, you had what?
Yeah,
Steve Flynn.
Steve Flynn was a fucking beast, man.
And that was done at Morris Sound too. That record,
yeah.
everything it's always Morris Sound. A lot of these, but
great cover, great album. And you just think about that. You look at the list of bands that came out in '91 from Florida. Morbid Angel, Blessed Are the Sick.
Yeah, well, that's still, that's
one
of my
favorites. That's my favorite. Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, do I like is the first record great? Sure. But there's something about not just the quality of the songs, but the production on Blessed that just, yeah. No, it was a very well done record.
And if you remember, in '91, they also put out Abominations of Desolation came out in '91.
Right, they re-released.
Yeah, they put it all together. Yeah, I mean that was Earache Records with that, and that's just to me that with the lineup. Obviously, you had Richard Brunel and you had Trey, Vincent, and Pete. But I mean, Blessed Are the Sick. I still have the actual promo poster for the album. I don't know what size. It's a pretty damn big promo poster with the artwork and everything on there, and it's just. I was
blown away when I saw that that band Hexenhaus had the same cover.
Yeah, we talked about that once on here. I think we were talking about album covers. Yeah,
it was crazy, man. That when I saw that, I'm like, wait, what are you doing?
No, that's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, and a band that I'm going to bring up because I thought these guys were underrated, and I don't know if you remember them. I'm actually going to play a song from them. You remember the band Nokturnel from Burlington, New Jersey?
Yeah.
They had a
that's a long time. Heard that.
Yeah, dude. 1991, they put out a demo called "Welcome to New Jersey." So we're gonna play the song "Poltergeist" off of that. But I'll tell you, they were a killer band, man. I think they only put out like 2 demos, like an EP and 2 full lengths because they put out Nothing But Hatred in '93 and Fury Unleashed in 2001. So yeah, we're gonna play the song "Poltergeist," and they're from Burlington, New Jersey. They're called Nokturnel, and I mean. I like all their stuff, man, but this is just the track I picked to play today. But we'll be back on the Tampa Morgue after this song from Nokturnel. The song is called Poltergeist from the Welcome to New Jersey 1991 demo. And we're back, and that was Nokturnel from Burlington, New Jersey, from the 1991 demo, Welcome to New Jersey, the track called Poltergeist. And then, for just talk about Florida, because a lot of, Gardy Lou, I mean, to me, Ben Meyer is such a legend. That's a guy I would love to have on the show one day. They were putting out 91, they put out their demo, and you think about it, it was like Ben Meyer, Richard Bateman, which you hear a lot of guys we bring in. I mean, a lot of Florida guys who come on this show, you hear Richard Bateman's name brought up a lot. Craig Hoffman on drums and vocals. What was do you have any interaction with Bateman back in your time, Ed?
Oh yeah. I knew Bateman for many years. I saw his first show at Nasty Savage at Crossover 301. I was underage. I talked about it on the show. I wasn't supposed to get in the show. The original guitar player, singer for Brutality, Larry Sapp. I was actually, in a weird way, tried out for bass way back in the day for him. And we started hanging out, and he said, let's go to the show. It's Nasty Savage. They're fucking great. I drove us there, and the guy at the front door wouldn't let us in, and he gave me I had to give him a few joints to get in. But, yeah, I saw Richard Bateman for the first time and was like, what the fuck, man? Because the guy, he's incredible. He was definitely incredible. Rest in peace, man. He was done pretty fucking dirty. The way they handled his whole thing, man. I look at that and I brings back memories of my mom, how she was handled, and I'm just like, what's wrong with us? What's wrong with this fucking world? But yeah, no, he was great, and I got body slammed by Ronnie at that show, so that was cool too. But yeah, no, Richard Bateman was, over the years, I've had many, and a lot of that too was because I was, in Brutality at one point, then Contorted, and Jim Coker was big friends with him. So there were times that me and Jim would run into him and we'd hang out and stuff. But yeah, he's a great, great guy, man.
You mentioned actually two people, you mentioned Larry Sapp and Jim Coker. And that same year, 91, you also had Brutality put out an EP. They put out their Metamorphosis. And that came out that was done in Morrisound, of course. And that was, do you remember Wild Rags Records, Ed?
Absolutely.
So Wild Rags Records, it's very interesting with them because they're like a legendary label, but it's a lot of bands angry. I guess there was a lot of bad dealings back then, but Wild Rags, they started in like '86. Some of the bands they had on the roster was like Gamacide from Texas, Alter from Sweden, Blasphemy, Blood Come from Los Angeles, Nuclear Death, which I think Nuclear Death had a big problem with. Richard C. was the guy who owned the label. Hell Witch did some stuff, Ancient Rites, Impetigo, Toxo Death, Dying Fetus, Behemoth, the list goes on. There's a bunch of bands. He had a store over in California, and the store had everything, man, from like everything I've ever, it had like records, CDs, posters, t-shirts, jewelry, everything. I know Pat from Hell Witch used to tape trade with him actually, but I think supposedly there was a lot of bad business, and it's kind of like, you remember, Seraphic Decay with Steve O'Banion.
Yep.
He was another label that one had a lot of trouble. I think he was like sending bands 7 inches without the covers because he was so behind. Like there was a whole nightmare deal with that label too. But with Wild Rags, man, did you ever deal with them personally?
No, never. Nothing that we ever would have put out would have been on their radar.
I think he wound up, so I don't know the exact story, but I know he got in trouble for income tax evasion, I guess. And I think he wound up in jail. And I think nobody knows really, I don't think anybody knows really where he's at now. But I know that, so I think it might have been when he got put away, they put a lot of the Wild Rags, but I guess you would say records and everything up for auction. And the guys from, I think, Sadistic Intent bought most of it. Because I think there was like a rivalry between their record, their store, and his store, possibly. Because Richard C., he started out, this guy, he was like selling women's glam clothes, like glam band clothes with his wife before the 70s, I guess. And then moved on to like band stuff and everything. But I've heard mixed things. Some people said he was a great guy, and other people have totally different stories, man, about him. But I think Sadistic Intent, they owned Dark Realm Records, I believe. And I think there was like a beef there, but he had a fanzine, he had newsletters. There was a lot of stuff with Wild Rags, but it's kind of like something you don't hear much about. But that was like I know there was a lot of bad business there, and I'm sure you've heard that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's
It wasn't hard to because people were so close in the scene. You would hear that shit spread like wildfire when people did that kind of stuff.
I heard his store was cool though, man. He had like signings there. He had like Voivod, Dark Angel, Destruction there, a bunch of different stuff. But yeah, that's it. I think that brutality came out on that. And I've always heard those rumors, but but obviously Asssuck was putting out stuff around that same time period in '91. Did you ever get to see them live?
Yes, early days. They were good.
Cannibal Corpse, of course. How can
Butchered at Birth.
You had Butchered at Birth. That was their second record because that was the follow-up to Eating Back to Life.
Yep.
So, I wonder. I was trying to figure out when the first time they played Tampa was. I think we were trying to figure this out a couple episodes ago. I want to say it was at the Masquerade / Rich, whatever it was called at that time.
It would have definitely been there, for sure. It would have definitely been at it was the Ritz. In the early days, it was the Ritz. So yeah, I think that was the first place I saw them. And I can remember them coming down through People's Storage. And I remember them going to see the guys from Eulogy. And I was like, wow, the fucking dudes from Cannibal Corpse are here. It was like, back when you're a young kid, you're like, oh, dude, this is cool. It's one thing to hang out with, like, the Crowleys and the, Mike Browning and see the dudes from Morbid Angel because it's an everyday thing. But when you see a band like Cannibal Corpse that is just no different than Morbid Angel down the way, actually, Morbid was probably bigger than Cannibal Corpse at that point. And you see them walking in, you're just like, oh, man, this is fucking awesome. And later on, look, we're all friends. So it's crazy.
And you mentioned Crowley. You had like the Rights of the Black Mass demo came out in '91 from Asheron. And that was Dave Smith on bass, Peter Gilmore, who his name comes up often on our shows. I've heard his name a few times, especially on the Vincent Crowley episode. And I think that Andy Howell from the Tattoo Shop deals with him too. James Strauss. So that, Asheron, I love Asheron. I've always dug them. And yeah, it would be cool to see, all I'll say is it would be cool to see Vincent Crowley play live in the near future.
Yeah, that would be pretty fucking awesome. And I will tell you, one of the bands that I've talked about, they're one of my favorite bands as far as death metal goes. I don't care how simple they are. I don't care how Bolt Thrower is probably one of the heaviest bands in death metal.
I think that's I would say that's probably one of your favorite bands, man. Like,
not my favorite, but it's just one of those, like, if I'm at the gym and I can't find anything, I default to it because it's just heavy. It's just.
Would you rank them in your top though? Your top 5 or so?
100%. And War Master came out, and their covers were always the selling point. And then when you listen to it, you're like, okay, it fits, because they're the ones that when you look at the cover, the music fits the cover.
Yeah, definitely. No, I definitely.
That's just to me, that was, them. And believe it or not, one of my other top, which me and you got to see a few times, Necrotism from Carcass came out that year. Yeah. And to me, Symphonies of Sickness was great, and Reek Putrefaction was great. They were great, but the production sucked on them. So it was kind of really hard to listen to them for any extended period of time, just because they were not, it was hard to listen to the riffs because they were just sounding like jumbled mess. But when Necrotism came out, and that's when they got Micah Mott, the playing on that record was just, and that's the one where they did the guy talking in between all the songs, and that was the first time you really heard a band intro every song with somebody talking about something in between the songs. And that's probably one of my favorite from that year, that's probably one of my favorite records.
And there's just so many.
And they were great live. When we saw them on the cruise, they were fucking
awesome.
fantastic.
We saw them in Orlando too. I think they were even better on the cruise than they were in Orlando.
100%. Their sound was way better on the cruise, for sure.
Yeah, and you talked about great covers. A cover that I didn't think was that great, but I love the band. Dark Angel did "Time Does Not Heal" in '91 off Combat.
Yep.
That was the cover is a little odd to me still. I don't totally get it, but the
record
like
was
Dark
great.
Angel. Yeah, it was like that was like their follow up to Leave Scars, which I think was like 89, I think 88.
Yeah, because you had the Combat that VHS that would have come out back then with Dark Angel, Faith or Fear, Death, and was it Venom?
I remember Venom. That poster had actually hung up in Circle Studios. That poster in the office.
Yeah,
it's funny you
great.
Say
that was but yeah, no, Death Angel does never disappoints when they put out music.
Killing Addiction '91, which was also, we talked about our Sarcophagus Decay records. That was off of that. That was their EP, I think, for '91. Man, there's just so much. I mean, what else do you have? I mean,
well, Europe.
It's a hard year to tackle because
if you go to the European stuff, Dismember put out Like an Ever-Flowing Stream, and then a record that I also listened to a lot. I mean, I wouldn't say it was my favorite, but I listened to it because while Left Hand Path was a great record, Clandestine was phenomenal from Entombed. It was just a different beast compared to Left Hand Path. They had really honed in that Swedish guitar sound, which Dismember also. If you listen, that guitar tone was coming into full effect from that area of Europe. So
I think the last time I saw them was with King Diamond at like the Twilight. Remember that club?
Wow, I forgot about
Masquerade?
that.
Yeah, that was the last time I saw Entombed.
Yeah, they were great. And another band too, Cancer, put out a record called Death Shall Rise, and that was a good record too.
Well, if you go through Florida, I think you remember a band? What was it? Gar Samuelson played in them from Fatal Opera. Do you remember that? They were they're out of Florida. I think that might have been the last thing Gar ever did, actually. And what else? Meat Locker. I think they had a demo in '91. We talked about Meat Locker. Yeah, I don't.
Grave came out with Into the Grave, which
Cynic
again
was putting out.
Wow, I forgot about that. Cynic. Yeah, I mean, and the one record that did come out that I was kind of disappointed about. I know some people will probably be like, "What? It was a great record," but when Pestilence came out with Testimony of the Ancients, no Martin Van Drunen, I was like,
yeah,
it just didn't do it. It just didn't do it for me. But get rid of Martin and he'll go ahead and put out Asphyx, because they put out The Rack that year, and that record was, I thought, and you've seen them live recently. Asphyx is great. I think
I saw them in Lithuania probably 2 years ago, and they were killer.
And they're one of those bands that they put out great records. Suffocation came out with Effigy of the Forgotten. There's another. You look, those dudes. I mean, you want to talk about guys who tour. Every time I turn around, they're fucking touring. Like Suffocation is on the road like 250 days a year. It's crazy. Those are guys, like when you talk about like Obituary touring, those guys tour big time.
Yeah, there's just so many,
Oh yeah, I mean, we talked about this band the other day. You said the first 2 records were great, and then they got too technical. They just changed their format. But Gorguts, that first record, Considered Dead, was a fucking Mark Lament, great record. And Immolation put out Dawn of Possession,
which I love that record. I do love Immolation. I think they're such a hardworking band, dude. They just,
they're one
like
of those
machine.
bands, yeah. And even today, like the new records sound phenomenal when they put out a record. And Ross Dolan's got to have the longest hair in metal history. I mean, that dude's hair is.
I've never seen them bad, man. No. I've seen them at Brass, the first Brass Mug. I've seen them. Every time I've seen them, they've been killer. And that's just they rank. See that band, like, to me, them, Christian, and bands like that. you know what you're going to get. It's just like they take it. It's like just pros.
Oh, yeah.
It's just,
yep. And a band I saw just recently put out a record that year too was Unleashed. And that was another band that just...
Love Unleashed. I saw them with Destroyer 666 last
Yep.
year, and they were killer.
Yeah, Where No Life Dwells. That was a great...
Yeah, I love the album cover to that. It's just a...
Yeah, there's so many records that came out that year. It's so hard to just say, hey, which... If you tried to say, what's your favorite record from that year, you would be like, yeah, I can't answer that question because there's too many. I mean, it was a great year for death metal. When you just can't scan Dark Throne, if you like Dark Throne, that first record was more death metal. Then they turned super black metal after that, but that was a great record.
Definitely. No, I and they're another legendary band. That there's a lot of bands we always say we can only cover so much because obviously we're out of a short show tonight, kind of. But I mean, just in general, if you go to like black metal to death metal to thrash metal, just regular, just whatever. There's so many genres now. What the hell they call everything anymore? But there's a lot of great records that year, man. And I just it's that was like a sweet spot. That 92, like you said, there's just a lot of they're just great years right there. Just some of the best records coming out. A lot of them coming out from Tampa. A lot of Florida bands. I mean,
well, just even because bands were starting to tour a lot back then, and you started getting some of the bigger tours coming through because those bands were getting exposed and they were out there promoting these records that they were putting out because that was what you did, right?
Yeah, no, it's 100% correct, man. And like there's shit when I forget sometimes. You mix up the years after a while. There's so much records that have come out during that time period in those couple year block, but just some real classics. And we always like to look back and look at that stuff. Like I said, tonight we were just we knew we were going to have a short show. We kind of just wanted to come on and just say what's up. And we got we're working on future episodes right now. I'm going to Lafayette next week, but I'm going to try to have us get one in before that. And we do have a guest actually scheduled for the 26th. It is right. The 26th of this month, we have Beelzebub from the band Mystic Circle from Germany coming on. I meant to mention that at the beginning of the show, actually. He'll be on the 26th of this month. And Ed, what else is going on? Anything before we, like I said, it's going to be a short show tonight, but anything else you could think of that we wanted to mention?
Nope. Just I was just looking through the list, and when you look through the thrash thing, you're just like, holy fuck, man.
That's the thing is, like, it's a kind of an overwhelming list. I was looking at it today. I said, shit,
Corrosion of Conformity Blind was such a great record. I wore the tape out of that, and the same thing with Arise from Sepultura.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's just so,
it's just too many to go. But it was a great year of music. Glad I lived it. I was able to be a part of it.
That's what I say. We might be getting older, but I'm definitely glad I saw a lot of what was around during that time period. So, tonight we're going to kind of make it a short show. We have other obligations going on, a bunch of stuff going on today. We just thought we'd squeeze one in really fast just to say what's up, kind of update everybody. We'll be back. I think we'll be back next week before, like I said, I'll be in Lafayette. We're going to try to do a show before that. And then we have Beelzebub from Mystic Circle coming on the 26th. So we're going to try to figure out some stuff in between that. Ed, anything else you could think of really saying, Tom? I sucks that it's such a short episode. Just, it's kind of like I said, we kind of squeezed one in this week. We had a lot of stuff going on, both of us.
Really not a lot going on. Not too many shows. I mean, I know the Suffocation show or Morbid Angel show is coming through very soon. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot going on even in Tampa. In the near future, that's worth, announcing.
And there's actually here. The show that I was trying to mention in the beginning that I kind of screwed up is so it's going to be held on July 20th, Saturday, July 20th, and that was Cemetery Filth with Cemetery Shade, Virulence, Vicious Depths, and Ramtha. And Ramtha's from St. Pete actually, and Cemetery Shade I think is from Broward County. And then Cemetery Filth is from Georgia. But that's going on at the Brass Mug, which everybody knows pretty much where the Brass Mug is, I think. But, it's 1450 Skipper Road in Tampa.
And if you're in Orlando, if you happen to be in Orlando on July 30th, Left to Die is doing their opening for their warm-up for the tour they're doing in Europe. So they're playing the Conduit on July 30th.
That's right. And we'll mention that again before. We'll be on before that a few times. But Ed, tell them where to check us out.
Anywhere we're streamed, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, YouTube, the Tampa Morgue at gmail.com. If you want to send us more hate mail, we love it. And pretty much Instagram, Facebook, everywhere, anywhere. Smoke signals.
That's right.